What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Clone Wars Chronological Rewatch. Today we're talking about the episode Fugitive in the Conspiracy Arc, and yeah, what did you think of this episode? Let's just dive in.
I like it. This episode kind of felt like, okay, we get it. It's like, let's go. It felt like a bridge episode.
It does feel like a lot of the 4 episode arcs kind of do this, where one of them drags a little bit. And I think part of that comes from, we kind of talked about this last time, but when we're going through this conspiracy, like watching it unfold for the first time is interesting and cool. A bunch of new information, learning about the inhibitor chips. Like, I felt the same way where I was like, okay, we didn't seem to move the plot along as much. Things wound up for the characters in a similar spot from beginning and end. That's not fully true, but we'll come back to that. But yeah, that's how this episode felt, is that if you already know all this information, it's less compelling.
Yeah, having seen the Bad Batch, you know about the chips, you know how they work, and you know who put them there and all that stuff. Like, just knowing all of that makes this kind of like, all right.
But at the time when it was coming out, this was all brand new information to Star Wars fans. So we were all like, wait a minute, there are inhibitor chips now, and all the clones have them, and we're finding out that that's what's responsible for Order 66. So it's one of those that I think it works best on the first viewing, and then not quite as well as you continue on.
Yeah. I also I do like continuing to see the Kaminoans be real sneaky, or try to be real sneaky, and you know, they're talking to Palpatine and Dooku behind everyone's backs, and they kind of know about the chips and the Order 66 and all that, and they're trying to kill this clone, and Shaak-Ti is like, this is our territory, and she's trying to bring him back, which I spent this whole episode thinking, like, all she needs to do is make a phone call and tell all the other Jedi what's going on, maybe get some backup, and be like, something fishy's going on right here. Like, I don't like it, and we need to look into this further.
It is true. She's just like, I'm going to take all this evidence, and we're going to go to the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. And it's like, you could call them first. Like, this warrants a phone call, I think. An email, something, FaceTime. Just get someone on the horn, Shaak-Ti.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the start, we have Fives kind of thinking the whole conspiracy had died down, and he's going back to the front lines. But then AZ, just being the loudmouth that he is, in a good way, says, he's like, oh, that's not what I heard. I heard that we're both getting our memories wiped, and then we're going to stay here. Hopefully we remain friends if we remember each other's faces. I still love AZ. But yeah, that's what drives Fives to be like, nope, something weird is still going on, and we got to get out of here. And that's kind of the theme of this episode, is when in doubt, go to the source. And so when Fives realizes that there's more to be learned, that's where he goes. He wants to go to the source of his own chip. He wants to figure out if all the clones have chips, and that's what he and AZ do.
Yeah, and he talks to AZ about his own chip, and AZ is like, well, you don't know that yours is even there, or it could mess up, and he's like, I know it's there, which is like, they talk about maybe having dreams of doing this kind of stuff after Order 66 gets turned on or whatever.
Yeah,
but
Tup was talking about, like, the nightmares that we have.
Yeah, and that is really tough to hear, that they're all just kind of like, yeah, I know something is going on up here.
It's kind of like, the Jedi as a whole, where they're like, something is going on. This is weird that there's just this clone army, but we're in the middle of a war, and we'll deal with that later. And they just never find the time to deal with it. The clones probably felt similarly, except for some of them, now I can't remember his name, but the clone in season 1, who's calling things out and being like, we're basically slaves.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't sign up for this. So, maybe that was his chip kind of giving him a little wrinkle in his brain where he's like, something is wrong. Mm-hmm. And they all should have listened to him.
Yeah.
I really like how much Fives trusts AZ. It just kind of dawned on me that, of all people in Star Wars, clone troopers were like raised to fight machines. And I like that, no question about it, Fives trusts AZ. He's like, here, do this potentially deadly surgery on me. Rip something out of my brain. Like, I trust you.
Mm-hmm. Well, he also probably is starting to realize how they're similar. Like, just the idea of having his brain wiped or his memories wiped, and the idea of having a chip in your head to control you, he's probably like, you know what? If they're going to treat us like droids, like, I need to trust this droid and have it, help me in this because we're kind of similar.
That reminds me of Star Wars Resistance, actually, because I had totally forgotten that they mentioned mind-wiping Fives in these episodes, but when First Order stormtroopers start to act a little off outside of their conditioning, they get something called the brain scrape. And which is just kind of like a reconditioning, a resetting of their whatever's going on, their brainwashing. Mm-hmm. Like Finn was about to go through that in The Force Awakens had he not escaped.
Yeah. Do you think that's like a Kylo Ren thing? Like the way he can kind of get into people's heads and pull out thoughts and memories. Do you think he was the one to go through like each First Order soldier and like wipe their brains? That would be a lot.
That seems like it wouldn't scale. So you have to rely on Kylo Ren. Not to mention, the First Order was like around and growing before Kylo Ren was there, so
yeah.
I think it was all just like, they are brainwashed from birth. But the brain scrape itself, when one steps out of line, maybe they call Kylo Ren in.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, they go to the source, they pull out Fives' chip, and then he's like, we got to keep going. They go to like the literal source of the clones where they're still like being grown in infancy. Mm-hmm. And they find out that, all of the clones have chips. And I guess that's really how the episode ends, is showing Shaak Ti. It's like, hey, this isn't an isolated thing. You all really need to look into this.
Yeah.
The Jedi should stop what they're doing and check this out.
Yeah. Which, a lot of the Jedi, including Shaak Ti, are probably like, this was a one-time incident with Tup, it's probably nothing. They just are so used to trusting the clones in their clone army to follow them as leaders that, they're so blind to the fact that something else could be going on. And
Nala Se does a pretty good job at convincing Shaak Ti that, like, the inhibitor chips are to make them less aggressive, which is what they tell Obi-Wan in Attack of the Clones. And Fives is acting very aggressive. Mm-hmm. So it does still muddle everything a little bit, so where I'm like, all right, it's not super obvious to the Jedi. I'll cut them a little slack. But they really should have looked into this stuff sooner.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the end of this episode, and we will be finishing up this arc next time we talk about the Clone Wars. But if you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
And consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.